Behind the quiet doors of Clarence House, the family drama of the House of Windsor found its newest chapter. 19 months of silence ended not with fanfare but with 55 minutes of tea, served in the King's private rooms, without cameras, without aides, without the usual choreography of protocol. Prince Harry left London as if walking on air, telling confidants and journalists that this was a new beginning, that he wanted to visit more often, that he wanted his children to know their grandfather not through caricatures in the press but through the smell of his study, the crunch of the gravel paths, the reality of a man still very much alive. But when he returned home to California, the euphoria met a colder draft. Meghan's voice, calm and pragmatic, cut through the optimism. Be happy, but don't lose your head. The palace has a long memory, she told him. Their best instrument has always been divide and rule. Don't let them wedge us apart. Harry's joy was raw and human. For a man exhausted by lawsuits, media narratives, and endless speculation, the simple reality of seeing his father again was almost intoxicating. He spoke of support from the British public, of conversations about children, of the warmth he felt across a table without microphones. He flew from Nottingham to Wellchild to the Diana Award, then suddenly to Kiev with the Invictus agenda, as if a new chapter had opened. Yet to Meghan the tune was all too familiar. She remembered 2020 not as a departure date but as the year every gesture was twisted, every smile reframed, every word turned into an echo chamber of sources close to the palace. Optimism was always followed by carefully placed recommendations in the press, and then the old cycle began again. Why should this time be any different? Meghan's warning was blunt. In her eyes, it was convenient for the palace to see Harry alone, to frame him as the prodigal son slowly drifting back toward the fold, separated from her by the soft mechanics of tradition and familiarity. Harry countered that the meeting was warm, that they spoke without demands or recriminations, that it was simply a father and son having tea. But beneath the warmth sat the same obstacle that had defined 4 years of distance: security. For Harry, the crux of the matter was protection, not prestige, but the real possibility of bringing his children safely to Britain without compromise. For Meghan, the crux was different. Who would guarantee that behind the smiles there would not return the same system where her name once again became a convenient variable in someone else's equation? Observers, of course, read the signals in their own way. The silence of William and Catherine on Harry's birthday, no posts, no ritual photographs, not even a polite message, was no oversight. It was a carefully drawn pause, a gesture of deliberate restraint. The ball is in your court. It was a reminder that reconciliation cannot be performed for cameras, it must be built in private. And in that silence resounded the question Harry least wanted to hear: is he willing to stop explaining the past in public and start repairing the future in private? His most recent interviews suggested otherwise. He insisted that his conscience was clear, that there could be no reconciliation without truth. For newspapers, these were juicy quotes. For the palace, they were a bucket of cold water. For Meghan, they were a warning bell. Each time he returned to the truth and reconciliation script, another mark was made in London's mental ledger under the column "Not Ready Yet." Meanwhile, the Californian stage followed its own rhythm. A toast in the lifestyle brand account, "When my handsome one came back to town." A retro photo from Harry's military years captioned "Oh hi, birthday boy," decorated with a flame emoji. To some, these were innocent gestures. To others, carefully staged answers to the British silence, demonstrations of here is our home, our stage, our narrative. Meghan understood that in the image economy, it was better to flood the feed with curated California warmth than to let it fill with stories about her husband's private tea with his father. But the contrast was unmistakable: a palace meeting built on silence and discipline, and a California montage of emojis and wine glasses. For older viewers, the juxtaposition spoke volumes. One side was building with quiet mortar. The other seemed to live in decoration. And then came the sharpest contrast of all. Just days after London whispered of bridges and security, American television aired a Disney special about Disneyland's anniversary. Harry and Meghan appeared in the episode with their children. Smiling, guided by VIP hosts, folded into the gentle background of a magical childhood. For fans, it was charming. For critics, reckless. For the palace, a signal written in neon: In Britain, endless arguments about whether children could safely visit. In California, the children woven without hesitation into a primetime promotional narrative. Not a crime, but a message. And in the House of Windsor, no message is ever missed. This is why half measures are now impossible. Clarence House will not permit half in, half out. No half duty, no half protocol, no half return. Under Elizabeth II that door was shut, under Charles it remains locked. Family meetings can happen. Grandchildren can meet their grandfather. But duties and roles will not be borrowed like costumes from a wardrobe. Either you are inside the institution or you are not. It is harsh but consistent. And Harry, with his yearning for small, ordinary moments, tea in the garden, walks with the children, a grandfather's hand on his son's shoulder, finds himself squeezed between the iron rules of protocol and his wife's iron logic of survival. Meghan's terms are simple. Security in practice, not on paper. No staged compromises, no temporary arrangements that would make them vulnerable. And silence. Not because they have something to hide, but because every leak has in the past grown into another tabloid season. If reconciliation is real, it must grow in quiet. No friends of the couple feeding headlines. No half-quotes to sympathetic reporters. Only silence, long and heavy, the kind that proves commitment more than any press release. Harry's defense, that his conscience is clear, is sincere. He truly believes that his memoir and interviews were corrections of false narratives, not acts of revenge. But sincerity does not erase the paradox. The more publicly he insists on honesty, the less privately he is trusted. His own truth becomes noise to those whose trust he most craves. Meghan sees this with brutal clarity. Her mantra is unchanging: if you want to build, put down the microphone. The stakes are high. If Harry brings his children privately to Britain, without cameras, without announcements, he may slowly rebuild what was broken. If he insists on living between two worlds, the door will stay closed. If Meghan continues to read every gesture as a hidden dagger, their Californian fortress may harden into permanent exile. And if the palace refuses to distinguish between family and duty, the Windsor calendar will continue without them. 3 truths, colliding in one fragile story. And yet, the possibility remains. 55 minutes of tea can be a prelude, not a trailer. A silent family photograph months from now, without captions, could mean more than 1,000 statements. The King's refusal of half measures is not an act of spite, it is the only logic that allows the monarchy to function. Meghan's suspicion is not paranoia, it is the instinct of a woman who has learned how quickly trust can be weaponized. Harry's hope is not childish, it is the natural longing of a son who wants his children to have a grandfather. The question is whether the 3 sides can bear the weight of silence long enough for the bridge to hold. If they can, then this tea may be remembered as the beginning of something real. If they cannot, then Meghan's warning will become prophecy, and the words they want to divide us will echo not as fear but as fact. The only way forward is through fewer emojis in captions and more fire in actions that require no caption at all.